Hello, everyone. Welcome to the third episode of the Amateur Hour interview series, where we have amateur fighters from, well, at this point now, around the world. Joining me, Ben Cohn from the Fight Site. I'm the grappling department head, by the way, in case you didn't know. Today, we have a special guest. We've got Fight Site Patron, undefeated amateur mixed martial arts fighter, 5-0, if I'm not mistaken, and he's got a fight coming up relatively soon, September 3rd, if I'm not mistaken. We got Matt Fordham. First of all, he's from the Land Down Under. That was awful. God, I'm editing that shit out. Or you know what? Fuck it. I'm leaving it in. Matt, how you doing? For you,
Good, how are you, man? Yeah, glad to be here.
Pretty good. Glad to have you.
Yeah.
So you're 5-0. You've been on a tear. Your fights are always a little too exciting for my taste, if I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah, probably.
You Mats tend to give me a little bit of anxiety. So before we get into your current escapades in the cage, tell us a little bit about you. Where do you come from? What brought you to where you are today? How did you end up at the gym, etc.? Give us the full story.
Yeah, man, I'm so involved in it now. It's hard to think of a time I wasn't. But I just started jiu-jitsu when I was about 14. On and off, as like 14-year-old kids are. Didn't want to go to the gym. Mum made me go. But then when I was about 15, 16, I think there was just an MMA class on. And I'm like, I'll jump in, give that a go. And my mate now, the instructor at the time, Dylan, beat the fuck out of me. And I didn't want him to know that I didn't like it. So I rocked up the other next day and he beat the fuck out of me again. And I didn't want him to know that I didn't like it. So I kept rocking up. And eventually I'm going to beat the fuck out of this dude. But yeah, I just kept rocking up because I knew I wanted to be good at it. And I knew I could be good at it.
Well, based on your
now he's one of my best mates and best training partners. Yeah, exactly.
And I think good at it.
Yeah. Seems like I'm getting there.
Hey everyone, just wanted to remind you all to take a moment to like the video, leave a comment. It really does help us out with the algorithm. If you'd like to see more content like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that bell notification, which will give you updates on when new content is posted. If you want to support the site, you could check out our Patreon. You'll get access to exclusive content, access to the Discord, and much more. And now, back to the video. Well, I mean, based on your recent performances and before your recent performances, you seem to be getting pretty good at this. So let's talk a little bit more about your actual gym. You mentioned that your coach beat the fuck out of you and your whole goal was to eventually beat the fuck out of him. So two questions. One, tell us about your training environment and your gym and your training partners, what they specialize in, and also, are you beating the fuck out of your coach yet?
Oh, he's not so much my coach now. He's more of a training partner. He was running the classes for the time. Yeah, look, my main coach, it's hard. I've got a few coaches. I've got that classic MMA things. I've got different coaches in different areas. Mm-hmm. I train at two main gyms, Infinity Martial Arts. I work there. I teach jiu-jitsu there as well. One of the jiu-jitsu coaches for kids and adults there. And I go to Thai Boxing Center too. Joe Hilton has been doing a lot of work on my Muay Thai there. You probably saw in my last clinch performance. But yeah, it's still split. So I find I'm working a lot of my own stuff and then picking it from these coaches and putting it in certain places, just making sure I keep that MMA focus as I go.
So when you're your background originally, I guess technically, is jiu-jitsu, and when I watch you fight, I mean, you look good in general, but like I would say your grappling is probably your strong suit, and it's really good. How much split training wise are you doing for your grappling, for your striking and stuff like that? Like, what's your general focus? And you said that you try to kind of pick and choose from the different gyms that you're getting and seeing what works for your game. So kind of what is the process that you use to really figure out how you want to fight, essentially?
Well, in my head, I know exactly how I want to fight, and that's where you guys have been a massive help, is picking the little bits and pieces that I need to put together. And depending on how I feel in them certain areas depends on how much time I allocate to a certain thing. So in my last camp, I spent a lot of time towards, say, working my front headlock because I'd put a lot of it into my clinch game. So when I go grapple, I tried to work snap downs and front headlocks. Yeah, so I'm just trying to bring, like, say I want to bring my striking up to that level. I'll spend more nights over at the Thai boxing center striking. I might have some training partners come in and drill certain things with me. And then I'm just trying to keep along this line of consistently knowing where the end goal is. And then we put pieces in place to start to build towards it.
You said that you know in your head who you want to be as a fighter. If you were to kind of verbalize that, what do you mean when you say I know what kind of fighter I want to be? So what kind of fighter do you want to be? What made you want to be that way as well?
Over time, I wanted to be a different kind of fighter. I'm not gonna lie, I did start watching McGregor and want to beat Conor McGregor. I think a lot of people, especially at my age, did. But the more I start to understand, exactly, the more I start to understand the sport, the more I start to pick up where I'm comfortable. And I want to push everything into areas I'm comfortable and areas I'm good at. And then I have to look at, okay, where are my performances lacking and how are we going to take it out of that area and then push it into the area that I'm comfortable. And I think over time I've had to be humble with myself, be like, look, maybe I'm not going to get that 13-second Jose Aldo knockout because I'm not the sharpest at the start of the fight. But I've started to put the processes in place. So at the start of the fight, I'm not going to get knocked out cold, hopefully. Best case scenario.
Definitely would be something we want to avoid.
Yeah.
So speaking, you mentioned that, at the start of the fight can be an issue for you. So can you elaborate a bit on that? I know in the last couple of fights you had, a couple of scary moments there. So kind of like talk to us about that and, what issues you noticed through with your coaches and with talking to the guys at the Fight Site, what issues you noticed were causing these knockdowns and what you're looking to address to fix them. We'll get into the really nice aspects of those fights too. Don't worry.
Yeah, it's hard, man. I've got this mental thing where I come out to the fight and I'm like to myself, how do I fight? What how do you do this? And it's almost like, because I don't have my reads against my sparring, like I would normally against sparring partners, I'm not comfortable there yet and I forget how to fight. But as soon as I start to figure it out, like I'm in my flow and I start going. But I've just started taking a step back, being a little bit further. Maybe I don't have to put the pressure on from the get-go. Maybe I can take a step back and give you some space and let myself get my reads so that I don't have to play a guessing game at the start as much, because that's where I'm getting caught.
Right. So moving on to the, really impressive aspects of those performances, aside from the fact that your recoverability is very clearly there, which I actually want to ask you about because I've had 2 fights, but I've never been hurt like that. I kind of just want to know a little bit more about it from somebody who's like much earlier in their career, because a professional, I expect them to be able to understand how to recover when they're hurt. Like you expect that, but your instincts in the recoveries in your fights was actually really, really impressive, because the guys who hurt you, they really look like well put together fighters. They don't look like guys who are just swinging haymakers for no reason. Your 4th fight was that dude. Oh, holy shit! That dude looked like looked like Rampage a little bit when he was good. like the way he was throwing those hooks in close, and I was like, Jesus Christ, this dude's been wailing on him, and you just recovered really, really well, and in this next fight as well. So talk to me a little bit about that, like, because tell people what that's like.
Yeah, especially with that 4th fight, he was a much sharper boxer. Watching it back, I was like, whoa, I did not see that coming into that fight. But it's interesting in that I've finally hit a point now, especially my last fight, where I was like, oh shit, it's been the first 30 seconds, I'm almost got knocked out. Now it's time to fight. It was like a switch in my head where I was just comfortable there because it's happened so many times. But it's just a weird thought process, especially in that fourth fight where I got proper knocked out before getting back up. I just thought to myself, like, everyone was like, "Oh, that was such a tough performance." I didn't feel like that because for me in my head, I was just going, "Well, I was almost knocked out. If it's over, the ref's going to stop it. I may as well keep fighting until he stops it." So that it's just like logical for me to keep going. I'm like, well, he'll stop it if it's too much, but I'm not going to just stop.
Okay. Okay, let me verbalize this and you tell me if that makes sense. So you basically were like, well, I'm not just going to like, he's going to keep hitting me. I might as well. That was the entire thought process.
That's pretty much it, yeah. Well, it's over, but like, I'm not going to give up.
The most fighter shit I've ever heard. Oh, God.
What else am I going to do? Let him knock me out?
I swear to God, like, I'm like, there's for sure going to be like, all right, I got to figure. You're just like, wow, I'm a fight. Might as well. Jesus Christ. This
Put all this work in already. Come on.
My response would probably be like, oh, fuck. Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck.
I think I passed that. Oh, fuck, man. He almost knocked me out.
That was phenomenal. Okay, fine. So moving to the part where you kind of came back, talk to us about I want to talk to you a little bit more about your grappling and your clinch game, because I think I described you to you as Charles Oliveira, literally. You're like early career Charles Oliveira, to be very, like, I'm not, everyone chill. You get knocked down, and then you just get your range and start beating the fuck out of people in the clinch with the grappling. So talk to us about your style. Talk to us about what you brought up a little bit, the front headlock and stuff like that, but your game flows really, really well. Your long clinch flows beautifully into your much shorter clinch game, which flows, I mean, everything flows beautifully from the feet to the ground. And it's cohesive, it's smart, it's well executed. So you seem to show a lot more experience and general savvy in those positions. So talk to us about your style, and also what do you attribute that to a little bit?
Yeah, so grappling's always made sense to me. When I started working that clinch work, it was almost because it made sense to me as soon as I grabbed a hold of someone, even though it wasn't grappling. Even though it wasn't grappling on the floor, as soon as I grabbed a hold of someone, it made sense. I could feel where they're moving. I could understand manipulating their body. It was essentially just jiu-jitsu, but standing. And so I had that thought in my head. I'm like, okay, how do we want to do this? What's the game going to be? How's this all going to flow together? If I need him, he's probably either going to put his hips in or he's going to drop his hips back. If he drops his hips back, I'm going to snap down, he puts his hips in. We go here, and it just all flows. It's a system like anything else. And in terms of my grappling, that's just all down to my grappling coach, Paul Chapman. I don't even know how to describe him. He's really good. I should have better describe in terms of that, but he just understands and is humble enough to admit when he doesn't understand, and he'll just push you down paths that you need to go down to figure things out. And that's the same thing that's happened with everything else in my fighting. And I think that's all from him, just being like, maybe look at this, maybe try this. There was a time, like, for probably about 5 or 6 months, where we were just like, look, you're not allowed to submit anyone, just hold them down in mount. He's like, you're good, you can pull off submissions, but you can't hold anyone down. I'm like, yeah, fair enough, we'll see how we go. Can't be that hard holding people down in mount. And I started mounting people, and they just had me off in seconds. And I was like, shit, I've really got to sit down and figure this out. And so I just learned to control people in mount, no submissions. And then he was like, yeah, I'm happy with that. And we just started to tack things on top of that. From mount, went to passing. And we've recently been looking back control. And I think that's how I try to attack my whole MMA game. It's just, this is where we need to work. Let's obsess over this. And then we'll build it together into a cohesive unit.
That you have done. I don't think anybody can watch your fights and come to any other conclusion. So it's really, really interesting. I really like that mount story a lot, actually. That's actually one, the sign of a good coach who understands their fighter very well. Two, you figured it out because your mount and your control on top is phenomenal to watch. It's really, really good. I really appreciate the way, and I know I'm gushing a little bit just because of technique nerd stuff, but I really, really enjoy the way that you push your hips down when you're in the mount. It makes it so much harder for them to move. And I see you, so you know exactly what I'm referring to. So yeah, now moving on from the nerdy jujitsu stuff. I want to actually ask you a bit about your fight schedule, because you fought a lot pretty quickly, and you have your next fight pretty quickly as well. What's the thought process behind getting these amateur fights one after another after another? Is it really just about getting comfortable in the cage, and what is the reason you've chosen to do that as opposed to maybe just building off a little bit more time to build your skills and get yourself where you want to be?
It's experience in the cage at the end of the day. They're only 3-minute rounds. When I turn pro, I'm sure, which is hopefully not too long off, not too far off now, we're going to probably put them out a little bit further apart, but spread them out and have some time in between them so we can build on them a bit more. But at the minute, I need that experience in the cage. Like in my last fight, I was comfortable in that first 30 seconds, but I was getting wailed on because I'd been there before. And so if we can get them that experience in now, hopefully I don't have to go through their experiences when I'm a pro.
That is true. I mean, you definitely won't have to worry about getting knocked down for the first time as a pro, which is definitely
exactly,
because most people probably don't experience that if they're going pro. So your next opponent, obviously, we're not going to talk too much strategy. Do you have footage on him, first of all, and watching him, how do you feel you match up?
Yeah, I've got footage on him. I think matching up, I don't think it's going to be an easy fight, but in terms of stylistically, I think it's the best stylistic matchup, one of the best stylistic matchups I've had yet for my style personally. But I still want it to be a banger. It's still going to be a banger.
No, stop it. Stop it. For the love of God, just fucking take him down and sub him in the first. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, who doesn't want to watch me stand and bang?
I don't want to watch you stand and bang. I want you to just fucking win. Gee. Holy shit, Matt. Oh, man. Stylistically, it's going to be my easiest fight, actually. But also, I'm going to fucking fight.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting in the cage for a reason.
You're definitely, listen, I can say you're definitely going to have a lot of fans, when you go pro and stuff like that, because your style is very fan friendly. You die and then you come back to life like the fucking Undertaker. And then you beat the shit out of them until they're dead. So it's a really nice. It's basically, shit, you really are like an Undertaker in the cage. You die, come back to life and work your way back into the fight. By the end of it, everyone's just like, I fucking hate this and I want to go home. So yeah. All right.
Yeah, I've been looking for fight name. How's the Undertaker?
If you come out with the Undertaker and you pull a fucking Izzy, I swear to God.
Yeah, bring his ashes out.
Jeez. Oh, that would. I mean, you are in Australia. I mean, I'm not saying don't do it. Before we wrap up, I actually want to ask you something about you mentioning that you were teaching actually in one of your gyms, or both of your gyms. I'm not sure, but definitely one of them. I feel like from
the jiu-jitsu gym.
Right. So I feel like teaching really does help people improve themselves as fighters, because you have to kind of focus on certain things. So I want you to kind of describe, what your who you're teaching, kids, adults, teens, whatever it is, and what your general approach towards teaching and how you feel it might have helped you, grow as a fighter yourself.
Teaching is 100% massive help to my development as a fighter. I take the lunch classes at our gym, which a lot of lower belts, but we do get the odd higher belts coming in. I find, I just end up hitting whatever the move of the week is. Like the past few weeks, we were doing X guard, and I don't play a lot of X guard. I don't play a lot of inside position in terms of the legs, but I find I'll teach a technique and then we'll say do open guard sparring, and then I've hit that same sweep I've just taught 3 or 4 times in the sparring. And everyone's like, "Yo, yeah, you're just showing off." I'm like, "But I'm thinking about it now, so I'm doing it." And I'll just find myself pulling. My new favorite thing is pulling off the move of the day that I've just taught.
I love that. First of all, the fact that you just brought up X guard, I'm always going to mark out. I mean, come on, it's literally my thing, and not just my thing, it's my gym's thing and my instructor's thing.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna mark out for an X guard. But so what I love about that is that checks out with pretty much every person I've spoken with who teaches and trains and fights themselves, because, like you said, it's on your mind. You're literally, and it's not just that it's on your mind. You have to break it down for other people to understand it. So you understand it on such a technical level and such the fine details. You have to understand it in order to be able to teach it. So, yep, that checks out.
Yeah, in terms of teaching, what I try and do is I try to figure out all the options the opponent has from this position, what options do I have this position from this position, and then set that in a systematic way, essentially. That's what I'm trying to do. And that forces me to relook at the position. So it's as much training for myself when I sit down before class for an hour and figure out what we're doing as it is teaching the people that I'm coaching.
The jumping off of that, I really like that you pointed out that it's not just teaching the details of the actual technique. You also have to teach, well, what can my opponent or your opponent do when I do this? Which means that when you do it, you already know how you're going to counter, depending on what they do, right? Like if they go this way, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
So it's essentially, basically, it's teaching you both offense and defense just by teaching, which I really, really like. So Matt, we are coming to the end of the interview. You mentioned that you are going to be going pro soon. So I just wanted to ask you, will you be fighting on the local scene first for a while, or will we see you coming stateside anytime soon?
If there's offers stateside, I'd love to go stateside. Wherever I end up, wherever there's offers, I'd love to be there.
Well, hopefully you're going to show up in New York so we can get some stand and bang on here too. I mean,
that would be brilliant.
Bang. Yeah, you love to stand and bang. I love to do literally anything but. So yeah, let's get that going. Matt, thank you for joining me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me on.
Tell everyone where they can find you, your social media, anything you want to shout out. Please, now's the time.
Yeah, pretty much just Instagram. M Fordham MMA on Instagram. Just give me a follow. I chuck something up every now and then when I'm fighting. So if you want to know I'm fighting, just jump on there.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining me today for Amateur Hour. Matt, it has been a pleasure. It's great to actually sit and talk to you like this. And then afterwards, we can now geek out once I turn off the recording about jiu-jitsu stuff. So everyone, make sure that you go and give Matt a follow. Make sure you follow the Fight Site, subscribe, like, you know the drill. Thank you for joining me. Have a great night.